These are 20 worst things that you can agree to as a seller when you go to sell your home. And we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get into it right now. Number 1, no unannounced door knockers. Don't let anybody in. Remember when we were kids and they go, don't talk to strangers? Same thing applies here. There's a lot of liability. What happens if that person comes in and breaks something? You don't know who they are. They can steal something. I had my wedding ring stolen once because my husband accidentally let somebody in to view it as a lease and he didn't get their information. And now I'm out a wedding ring. I'm still mad about it. So if you do get that door knock and people are like, hey, can I just get a peek inside? The answer is no. They can contact your agent or they can just go take a picture of the sign or call your agent on the for sale sign. And if they can't figure that out, then they have no business seeing your house in the first place. So no, don't do it. I know you're excited in selling your home. They need to go through the proper channels for your safety and your liability. Number 2, do not sign any agreement, a listing agreement, unless you know exactly what you're signing. That is the biggest mistake that I see a lot of you making. You just think it's not a big deal. You're just going to sign a contract and you trust that realtor to fill it out properly. So that's not what you're going to do. You're going to ask your realtor to send you a PDF copy of the listing agreement. And you're going to take that listing agreement and you're going to go stick it in the ChatGPT or whatever AI service you're using and ask it, can you please summarize the listing agreement? What kind of questions should I be asking my realtor? And what areas do you think are weaknesses or what suggestions or modifications would you recommend to protect my best interest? And ChatGPT will spit out all this information and you're going to call your agent and ask them those questions. The top 2 things that I really see coming up a lot is the term of the contract and also the commission structure. Know what you're signing. Do not agree to something you don't know what you're agreeing to. Number 3, you are never going to agree to anybody doing the RV or the boat test or like, let me see if I can get my car in the garage. That is way too risky for you. Way too risky. What happens if they're just like, drive into the garage and then the big pedal on the right all the way to the floor mat and they go flying through your wall? Trust me, this has happened. Who's liable? They can just split and leave. You have no idea who they are. Now, if you're under contract and it's really a deal breaker, then maybe you consider it, but they need to have some earnest money at risk if they do damage your property. Or what happens if they're bringing the boat in and like take out a fence? Now you got to dispute with the neighbor. Do not do this. There's this thing called a measuring tape. It works every time. I know a lot of you with those big old Ford trucks are like, no, lady, I just don't know if it's going to fit. I want to see how easy it's going to be. I'm sorry. It's a lot of risk for the seller. And if I was selling my house, I'd be like, no, absolutely not. Number 4, we don't have the buyer bring in their general contractor or handyman and fix and repair things before the close of the property. No, there was a story in our office where this really nice seller, they were just trying to be nice and flexible and they really liked this cute little family. So they agreed to have their buyer come in and start working on some of these renovations and improvements. And guess what happened? The buyer lost his job and couldn't qualify for the loan. So now the seller is stuck with a, ripped out kitchen. Okay, you don't want that. The other concern I have is you don't know who these general contractors are. You don't know if they even have a license. You don't know what their background is. And then what happens if they get injured on your property, okay? Just don't do it. Way too much risk, way too much liability. And I know a lot of you are just really wanting to be nice. This is not a time to be nice. This is a time to protect yourself and just, this is a professional contract. This isn't charity. Number 5 is lockboxes. I don't love lockboxes. I myself would never agree to having a lockbox on my house. First of all, it scratches the door handle. A lot of realtors love putting that thing on the door. I hate it. It's like, hey, look at me. Anybody can, get access if they have the right code. I just don't love that for security reasons and for appearance reasons. If you can't get around that, then just make sure you put your lockbox on the side of the house so it's not out for everyone to display. Or, the other thing that you might want to do is talk to your realtor who is adamant about that lockbox and say, hey, listen, let me keep the lockbox in the house. And then when we get a showing, I can just stick it out front and then you take it back in. But I don't love it hanging on the door. I just don't like lockboxes in general. My mantra, which is if you're hiring a listing agent and they're not showing your house, like, what are they doing exactly? I know I get in a lot of trouble for that one, but That's what I would do. Number 6, let's talk pets and kids. We can't discriminate against kids, but I try. I'm joking. But if I'm in a house and these kids are running around and jumping on beds and being unmanageable, I'm there at every single listing appointment, and I'm going to ask the parents to attend to their kids. I'm going to ask them to keep the kids in their eyes distance. And I just tell them, I go, listen, this is a very special home and you're a guest in our home. And we just ask that you would take care of it the way that you would want your house to be cared for. And we don't want your kids to get hurt. And quite frankly, I don't want the property to be damaged. I'm sure you understand. Some people understand, some don't. The other thing is some people just show up with their dogs and they go, oh, I hope this is okay. It's like, no, it's not okay. You got to look at it this way. If you are invited to a nice dinner at a friend's house, you're not going to show up unannounced with your dog. It's rude, right? And you're not going to show up unannounced with your kids running all over the place. It's just disrespectful. It's rude. So if you are selling your home, I would try as best as you can to communicate to your agent, if they are that lockbox agent and aren't at the property showing the home, that you really want to make sure the property is well cared for and you don't want dogs and unmanageable kids if possible. Now, some of you have service dogs, and of course, that's a whole different story. But if you do need to bring your dog as a service dog in to view the property, I would just give the agent and the owner a heads up before you get there. It's just called respect. Number 7, and do not do this. A lot of buyers have asked some of my sellers, hey, we want to make sure we love the property. Can we just sleep over a few nights to see if we like it? I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't even believe that anybody would agree to that. The answer is no. This isn't a hotel. Absolutely not. Don't do that. Too much risk, too much liability, and it's really creepy thinking that someone's living in your house, right? In your bed? What? No. Number 8, it kind of goes along with number 7, which is no early move-ins. So if a buyer asks you, hey, can I move in a few days before I close because my lease is up and I'm just stranded. Can you accommodate that? And a lot of you good-hearted folk out there will be like, oh, okay, I'll work with you. Okay, no, this is a professional transaction. Nobody lives on your property until it closes and it records. And then you hand over the keys. Because what happens if that buyer can't qualify for a loan, then they're squatting on the property. Or even if they can qualify for the loan, what happens if they decide, hey, I'm just going to squat? And I know a lot of you out there are like, no, the buyers are so nice. You don't know these buyers. You just met them through the transaction. You won't believe some of the stuff I've seen. Number 9, we don't automatically agree to give a credit in MLS. You already give them money away. So I hear a lot of you asking me this. Hey, Audra, I know the carpet's dirty and it needs to be replaced, but can we just give a credit to the buyer? Why? Why even agree to that up front? You don't know what the buyer's going to offer you. They might like your ugly carpet or your flooring or paint, whatever you think. Don't give money away. I don't love that. A lot of realtors love doing that. The other thing, it's psychological. When I'm reading an MLS entry and it says, yeah, we'll give you $10,000 for carpet, I automatically think, oh, this thing's going to be ugly. And they're already giving money away. Like, how much more are they willing to give? So don't agree to that up front. Let the offer come in and let the negotiations begin. Number 10, I would not agree to doing your own repairs. If you can negotiate a credit, I'm always going to recommend a credit because there's not a lot of liability for you. Because what I see happen is the seller's like, oh, I'm selling this house. I'm going to try to save some money and do the repair myself or have Handyman Joe come in here and do the repair. And then the buyer goes to do the final walkthrough and they're furious because the repairs weren't done to their standard. So if you can either negotiate it out of the price or do a credit, I'm always going to recommend that. It makes it smoother. And then you just focus on getting out of the property. Number 11 is I wouldn't agree to any frivolous repairs. I'm talking if the buyer makes an offer and says, hey, we don't like your countertops. We want you to change it out. No. Or, hey, we don't like your cabinet pulls. We want you to change those things out. No, those are frivolous. Hey, we don't like the paint. Can you paint it before we move out? Those are frivolous repairs. Now, the only time I'm going to recommend that you make any repairs or give a credit is if something's not working or it's a code-related issue. Number 12, I would not agree to long closing periods. When a buyer makes an offer, they're going to say, hey, here's my price and terms, and I want to close, let's say 60 or 90 days after a fully executed contract. Okay, if it's 60 or 90 days, folks, that is just way too long. Way too long. I would only agree to something that's 30, 45 days tops because there is so much that can happen the longer the term. Number 13, we are not going to agree to any buyer alteration of terms after you sign a fully executed contract. Where I see this happening is the buyer will say, hey, I sold my house and I didn't get as much as I wanted for it. Can you drop your price to help me out? No. Oh, well, I'm getting this big bonus check and I need you to, extend it another 30, 40 days. Well, is that okay? No. You signed a legal binding contract. Folks, this is not your problem. This is your buyer's problem. N-O spells no. Number 14 is we do not agree to having unlimited inspections on the property. In every contract, there is a duration of time that the buyer gets to do their inspections, okay? We don't do it throughout the entire process, just during that period of time. And you don't want your house constantly being poked and prodded. Oh my goodness, the stories I could tell you. So just stick to the timeline. Number 15 is I would never hire a friend or family to represent me in the sale of my home. Okay. And I'm recommending you do the same. You need to preserve that relationship. This should be a professional experience. It should be 100% a business transaction. Now, I do have a referral network. I'll link the link right here and I will link it down below. It's super important that you interview a few agents. I do have a resource guide also linked down below. I'll link it right here as well, that you can download, that has questions that you can ask the listing agent. There's a whole cheat sheet on how to prepare your house for sale. But this is one of the probably the most important transactions in a lot of people's lives, and you need to find the best representation out there. Okay, don't minimize this one. Number 16, last minute furniture parades. I see this a lot where the buyer will call and say, hey, I'm going to bring my mother-in-law and my designer and my painter and my general contractor. You know, I need access to the property, and they're already past their contingency period. And every contract, there is a duration of time that the buyer can bring as many people as they want to the property. But once that time has lapsed, you as a seller do not have to let anybody on the property. And I would recommend that you don't, because you're going to bring all these people in there. You don't know if they're going to break anything, and you don't know if that buyer is going to get in the house and go, oh, I didn't see that. Oh, the seller didn't disclose that. And, oh, I just talked to my general contractor and he says this is going to be a problem. If your buyer wants to bring all those people in, they should have done it during the time specified in the contract. I would say no. So I have some really good news. I'm at 89,000 subscribers today. And you know my goal, I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And once I get to that 100,000 subscribers, I am not going to bug you ever again. I just want the plaque. Just want the plaque. All right, help a girl out, smash the like button, and comment down below with any of your video ideas. All right, thanks so much. Let's get back into it. Number 17 is I would not agree to having the buyer waive the final walkthrough. Just don't do it. You want the buyer to verify the condition. And if they can't do it, their agent can go around and take a video or FaceTime them wherever they may be, or a trusted friend can go over there and verify the condition. Because as a seller, you don't want to close on the property and then have your buyer come back to you and say, hey, this wasn't what we agreed to. Okay, it becomes a problem. So make sure someone is verifying the condition of that property. Number 18 is I would never agree to give your buyer your contact information, your phone number and your email. And I know a lot of you are like, oh, well, we love them. We just want to stay in touch. Okay, your privacy is very, very important. I have this one nightmare buyer that was harassing the holy moly out of my seller. They would be calling them all the time and asking them how this works and threatening them that they didn't disclose these things. And it became a major issue. If the buyer needs to have some questions or has some questions about the property, they can contact the listing agent and do all that. I also don't love getting the buyer and the seller together for any reason. I think you just keep both sides separate. And a lot of you buyers want to beat the seller at the end and do the all, shake the hand and walk around and teach them how to do everything about the property. I would rather have that seller videotape how everything works on their phone and then, create a file and send it to the buyer. It's much easier and much cleaner that way. Number 19 is I wouldn't play escrow or title games. A lot of you don't have escrows. You just have titles or you have attorneys managing the process for you. But where it becomes a problem is, your friend just opened up an escrow company or a title company, or your cousin's giving you a bro deal on their title. So as a seller, you're like, oh, I want to use their escrow company or I want to use their title company. I just would make sure that you're working with the right title company and the right escrow company or the right attorney. It makes all the difference in the world. I had this one situation where I was under contract. We got the escrow going, got the title going. And then the seller goes, hey, I just met this guy out in the golf course and he said he can give me a discount and, you're ripping me off. Okay. His company, meaning his friend at the golf course, was a very unreputable company. And when you're dealing with these transactions, folks, there's wire fraud out there. Some of these companies don't have the proper protections. So don't get into I'm trying to cut all these deals. Escrow, title, and your attorney are worth every penny if you're doing it right. Okay, don't skimp in this area. And the last one, number 20, is we don't have any side bro deals, like no handshake, under the table dealings. We don't do that. Where I see this happening is like the seller will say, yeah, we'll leave some furniture for you. Don't you worry. No, that has to be in writing. Or they'll say, hey, yeah, we'll give you a credit for some of these repairs, but nothing's ever done. It's not real and unenforceable unless it's in writing. Now, I know you can all say, hey, there's verbal agreements, but it's very hard to enforce those. Very hard. So get everything in writing. There is so much to think about when selling your home, and I hope you got some enjoyment out of this video. I'm just trying to help protect you, and a lot of you just don't know what's customary out there. All right, thanks so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day.